You ready to talk about the most talked about topic? Any guesses?
Your proposal in Paris, France.
Next one.
Is about the magical experience at Deauville Tourbillon.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
It's about ChatGPT, guys.
ChatGPT. AI language models.
That's right. So, what do we think about it? I think, Anthony, everybody wants to hear your views on ChatGPT. So, why don't you give our audience a definition? Tell them what it's about.
All right. Yes, I am the expert in ChatGPT and AI language models, I guess. I did grow up watching a lot of sci-fi movies, so I am familiar with that space.
Self-proclaimed. Of
Yep.
course.
I've watched The Matrix over 10 times, and I'm pretty sure it starts with something similar to ChatGPT. So yeah, I do. I'm a firm believer that AI language models and just AI in general is really interesting, and I think it's going to shape a lot of what we do in the future, both in our personal and professional lives. I don't necessarily think that it's going to offset so many different jobs, although it will, and so many different things. But I think it's actually going to change the way how we fundamentally do a lot of tasks and do a lot of work. And I think you can relate it a lot to how, in 2006, 2007, you had a lot of search engines. You had Alta Vista, you had MSN, you had Bing, you had Ask Jeeves, you had Google, you had a slew of them. Yahoo search was a thing at one point. You had a slew of them, but what happened very quickly was that one became the most used and far superior than the others, which was Google. And I think that's what's going to happen with the AI language models, where right now, say you want to know how to do something, anything, right? You're doing a search on Google, or you're doing a search on YouTube, right? Or maybe some small percentage of your searches on other things. That, I think, is going to be how AI language models are. You're just going to use it in your daily, everyday life to find out things. And it could be Google that does, it could be Microsoft, it could be other companies. But I feel like you're just going to use and interact with this software way more than people think they're going to at this current moment.
Makes sense. And that was a cool story that you talked about when Google was fighting in the search space with all
Yeah.
these others, early 2000s. Some of the competition was thinking that Google is giving too accurate of answers rather than what others were doing, and that people would use it less or more. What was that about?
Yeah, I mean, I think with Google and with the search engine wars of the early 2000s, right? Every search engine had its own niche, right? Like I used to use Alta Vista for its language translation ability, and it had like a more of a worldwide impact. I liked Ask Jeeves because it was kind of like a personal concierge type service that didn't really have too much other things on it, but it wasn't as dumbed down or as simplistic as Google was. I used to use Yahoo Search and Microsoft Search, MSN, because those had like news widgets on the side, and it had like a lot of information, like some products and some different things on it, recent articles, and that was kind of like an all-in dashboard to capture everything, right? But what wound up winning in that space was Google, which was just, at the time, it was just a blank search bar and two buttons, right? One was search and the other one was like get lucky or something.
Yeah.
And it was just, it simplified the whole process. And they had a really good algorithm as well. And they gave, relevant search results. I think that's what's going to happen with AI but what's going to happen with AI is that you might not know exactly what you want, but the AI will help you find it in a different way, a way that maybe you didn't think before. Like you might say, hey, maybe you'll type in a search bar, I'm hungry, what should I eat for dinner? Something that you probably wouldn't search for in a Google or a Microsoft right now. But the AI, or especially if it's a learning AI or a personal assistant AI, that's something that can actually factor in your preferences. It can factor in how frequently you have things, how frequently you eat different things, and like what your favorite cuisines are and favorite places and what's open, what's not open.
Yeah.
Like it can help with like a lot of those very strange decisions that we make that we don't really know yet what that's going to look like. But I think that's one example of how it could look like.
Yeah, yeah. I think for impacts, for sure, that I feel like we had with search engines, that the level of knowledge just went up during that time because
Yeah.
people were able to search different things, know about different things. It was easy to know about different topics. I feel like with the preliminary use case that we see with ChatGPT, I think the level of content is gonna go up. Like the editorial pieces, like you want to write anything, like even like tweets, Instagram captions, like people are just like chat GPTing everything and it like turns out so well. Like I think we were discussing the other day that someone's LinkedIn post was like sounded so great that we never knew that the guy write it so well. So
Yep.
I feel like the level of content is gonna go up, but then everyone's level of content is gonna go up so much that there's gonna be like just an overall impact to that part. I feel at work as well. I see a lot of application of ChatGPT and generative AI. I feel like we were talking about that all earning calls had some sort of AI in their topic. Just like in general, I feel like in the office, every department is talking about let's pick up a project on generative AI. So everything is moving in that direction. What do you think, Jason?
So I would say I am less sanguine on the prospects of AI being, at least AI in its current form, being really transformative. I think, to me, it echoes, the whole blockchain thing. Where, a number of years ago, everyone thought that blockchain was going to revolutionize our whole lives, and to this day, I can't think of a single application where blockchain has really impacted my life or lives in general. I think there will be applications for AI, particularly on changing some of the experiences on an individual level, but I don't think it's going to have the macro impact that you think it's going to have as far as the content that's going to be out there. Right now, as we sit, there are millions of people churning out content, and a lot of it is the same, right? Because there's already these macro trends. There's already that meta game of, oh, reaction videos are doing really well, so let's all make reaction videos, right? So the mob, the hive mind is already producing swaths and swaths of very similar content once that content becomes popular, and really the value out there isn't so much in the generation of bulk content, which is already happening organically. It's in the creation of new or innovative content, which I don't think AI is well suited for. It's very captive on the sort of garbage in, garbage out dynamic. It's very dependent on the root or source information it's working off of, the data, but also it's dependent on the individual user who's giving instructions to be clear and to give good instructions, which I know anyone who's ever worked with a user base can say, that's rare.
Yeah.
I have a hot take to Jason's hot take.
Yeah. Oof, that's
That
that one.
super hot. Um, I do agree, like comparing generative AI to blockchain. I think blockchain to begin with as a concept was not clear to a lot of people. I think yes, it was driven by, and there's gonna be a lot of people that have like differing opinions on this. But to this day, even after searching a lot of people are not able to fully understand what blockchain is, like where can I apply it in my day to day. But AI has been a part of our lives for almost almost 2 decades, I would say, in its preliminary form, and now coming to generative AI. I do feel that this is the level 2 AI that we are coming into, and just with like how many downloads for ChatGPT, what was like 2 million or 20 million? Like what was
More
the
than that, yeah.
something crazy?
At least 20 million.
Yeah, that people are like quickly using, and like even if it's for like just small stuff, people, it's shown to be something that is adopted really quickly, and because it's free, and of course it's going to get monetized, but because it's free, like the Google search, the adoption is going to be way faster than other things that we see, like blockchain, like other things which involves a lot of like funding, or us buying like some sort of coin or something. So I do feel like it will be an essential part of our lives.
No, I don't disagree that it's going to become integrated into our lives. I do think there's going to be a widespread adoption of that. I just don't think that adoption is going to be heavily impactful, right? Because people, when you use generative AI to create content, the whole goal is to create content that isn't identifiable as being created by generative AI, right? So it's going to blend in with all the other content that's already being made by people.
That's right.
So you're not going to notice a change. So is it really impactful if, in the stream of creation of content, there's suddenly an element of it that's generative AI if you can't tell the difference?
Yes, exactly. And that's kind of like what I was saying. I don't think it's fundamentally going to change what the content that gets put out or like what gets made.
Yeah.
I think it's going to change how you make it. Right? It's going to be like, oh, like if I'm writing a letter or an email, or I have something important to write up, like, oh, I want somebody to proofread this, instead of me giving it to you or Jason to proofread. Now I'm just going to just put it through AI. I'm going to say like, hey, proofread this. What can I do to make it better? And that is going to fundamentally change, A, how much I talk to other people, right? But also my work product could probably be better,
Yeah.
right? Just like, I mean, AI, autonomous vehicles, right? Not super efficient, not super great at driving, right? But better than most people driving, right? That's just the reality of it. People don't like to admit that, but it's better than most people. That's kind of like what the AI content is going to be. It's going to be better than most content, and it's going to be better than most people are doing whatever task it is that it has to do. And it's just getting better that much faster.
Yep.
And Jason, this is an interesting use case for you. I don't know if you saw this in the paper the other day, but they were saying that AI content creation is coming for anyone that writes low-quality side character information for video games. So any kind of quests or any kind of like AI chatter or like chatbot stuff that's going on, like all that stuff is going to be iterative. And I thought what was funny about the article is that maybe it said the next, first like organic AI might be created in some side quest of a video game with two side characters that are just chatting with each other, which I thought was funny.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, I think, the biggest fear that we hear around generative AI, that it's going to take away jobs in the corporate world. Like, what do we think about that?
I don't think that's going to be the case, at least anytime soon. I think all of you, anyone who's worked in the corporate world and been at all involved in any sort of, RPA or, implementation of an AI type of solution knows the limitations. How it takes weeks and weeks of effort on the part of the employees to make it happen, and only really works so far, at least for mindless sort of processes, things that are easily repeatable. And it's probably going to free up a lot of man hours for that sort of thing. but at least on the corporate side, the real value or value add of professionals is, their analysis, their ability to, make connections and do things beyond the repeatable or ordinary. So I think it's not going to really affect at least people in our type of career. But I mean, there are probably other areas where it might be more impactful.
So, yes and no. I think it will simplify a lot of the already kind of like low-hanging fruit positions, not even positions, but even just tasks, right? There's a great demo that Microsoft put out a couple months ago that talks about the different AI tools that they have for the different products in Microsoft Suite, right? They go through PowerPoint, they go through Word, they go through Excel. PowerPoint is pretty cool. You basically give it a few bullets of content and it'll generate a template for you in PowerPoint, which is nice, right? If you're working in PowerPoint, you have to create a deck on, hey, what are the top 3 locations to build a new site for your company for XYZ product in a specific region. It'll autofill that with some content, which will be something that you can start from, which is nice. Oftentimes getting started is like the hardest part. Same thing for Microsoft Word, right? Like the example I mentioned, you write something, you want to get it edited in real time, have a proofreader. That proofreader is going to be AI. Maybe you want to add some notes, some information in there. Maybe you want some backup or some stats. Hey, I want to know how many people are in the United States right now, right? 320 million. If you don't know that, you could have the AI give you a source and link it immediately, which is pretty cool, right? Because that saves you multiple steps of going online, doing some searching, doing things like that automatically at your fingertips. And for things like even Excel in the world of finance that we live in, if you're doing something like a trend analysis and you're looking at a variance versus a budget or a forecast or something like that, and so you have multiple variables, so you have 15 different products, and the most recent month, one of those 15 products is driving a big variance, you can use the Excel AI modified view to really highlight, show, and create a story around which one of those products is driving the variance in the current month. How is it different? How far out of trend is it? And it'll kind of create these bullet points for you that you can use in whatever kind of business that you're working in. So I do think a lot of stuff like that the AI will solve for. Yeah, it's not really a lot of the super complex stuff, but I think it could get to the complex stuff pretty quick, especially as people get more familiar and more comfortable with that kind of output and catering it towards their needs. So I wouldn't necessarily write it off as like, it can only do like the simple things. I think it can do a decent amount of things that you wouldn't think are normally simple but are simple. And I think it'll really put some pressures on like where the value you bring to your job are and like where those value add activities are for ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, similar. I think like any other new technology, I think jobs might shift a bit. In number, I feel like the jobs will increase because once every company, and we've seen that like in the earnings calls this week, this month, every company is talking about AI, and that could be, or investment in AI, that could be just because like if they don't, the stock price tanks because this is the most popular thing that everybody's talking about right now. But every company is going to try and monetize generative AI, and I think more jobs will be created around that. I think the existing functions could have some sort of impacts from generative AI, but I don't. There might be job losses for stuff that can be done better by generative AI, but at the same time, there'll be like a whole set of new jobs created around AI as well in these companies.
Yeah, and just to tack on that too, I think a lot of the the top 10 most valuable companies are basically software engineering companies right now, right? You got the FANG companies, you got Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, whatever. A lot of their products are based on software. And right now what AI does is it makes engineers' jobs a lot easier. So you're writing a piece of code, maybe you're having an error message or something's not working, or you need to analyze it to make it more efficient. Like whatever you're doing, you're doing some Google searches, you're asking some of your other SDE friends, and you're kind of looking for different solutions to a problem. Well, if you have an AI platform running right next to you that's evaluating the code, giving you input, giving you options, giving you different things to try, that's going to free up a lot of that search time and a lot of that cognitive load that you were spending on searching for alternate solutions. So I think from that respect, it is going to it's going to give each engineer more leverage, right? It's either going to give them the capability to do more, or it's going to be able to give a company the ability to do more with less. Either way, I think it's going to be a big productivity gain in that space. I don't think that there's going to be any less need for engineers. I think you still need engineers to build that foundational software and to kind of create new ideas like Jason mentioned. But I do think that it's just going to create a lot more content and a lot more code out there.
Yeah.
And there's probably going to be a massive amount of new products and services that get built because it is quicker and it is easier.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think we've seen this happen all the time with new stuff coming in.
Mm-hmm.
We all get, as a human race, super excited about something. We pour in a lot of funds into it, and sometimes it's here to stay, and sometimes it's just like a fad.
Right.
So let's see what happens.
Yeah. And this, one more thing too. You kind of gave your response on Jason's hot take. I do think that it's very easy to compare AI with the blockchain craze of the past few years, but I think what makes it different in my mind, there is a great amount of excitement around both, right? But like you mentioned, blockchain is kind of conceptually a great idea, a forward-looking idea. It's very interesting, right? You can do a lot of things with it, right? But it's not relatable to the common person. You don't really have those use cases like you mentioned. But there's a lot of use cases for AI that aren't future use cases, but it's now use cases. We just haven't really fully explored it and haven't had the time to really dig into it.
Yeah.
But there's use cases there. I've used it. I've used it for multiple things. I've used it to write things. I've used it to brainstorm things. I've used it to write posts. I've used it to help me think through things. I've used it to create a trip itinerary going to Tokyo. It's really cool what you can do with it, and it's so fast and it learns so quickly, and the permutations, the deeper you can get with it, is really cool. If I want to write you a letter, right, and say, hey, I'm going to write this guy a letter. Maybe that's a bad example because it's just like content. But say you want to write somebody a letter, and you want to make it an aggressive letter. Well, you can just tell the AI, make this more aggressive. If you want to make it funny, you say, make it more funny. If you want to have more references or historical anecdotes or whatever, you just tell it to do that. Simple stuff for a simple task, but there will be tasks like that aren't so simple. Say, hey, call up my telecom provider and be like you're angry that the cost is so high. Argue my telecom monthly rates down more for me. The AI will be able to do that.
Yeah.
It's not quite there yet, but it's going to get there really quick.
Yeah.
Really quick, and it's going to use your voice.
It's going to be pretty cool. Future is going to be pretty cool.
Future is going to be cool. It's going to be even cooler than the Star Trek computer. That's what it's going to be. Next generation, Jason.
All right, let's all put in all the money we have in OpenAI.
There we go, yeah.
Cool. All right.
AI. Done.
Done.